run over. Mr. Emmons, in evaluating the hydrologic budget on this watershed, is there a time of year that one would anticipate maybe an opportunity for runoff to be coming into Lake Poncet at a certain time of year?
There's a lot of factors that affect runoff, and you'll probably get some in the spring. It depends on the snow condition, but you will get runoff in the spring because the ground will be frozen. It's an impermeable surface, and snow you're going to get some runoff in. Little tributaries, little rivulets, and that type of thing coming in. If you get a large rainfall event, and I'm not going to define large because there's a lot of conditions that we'll define with it. The chances of getting runoff are greater coming into the lake. But to say, if you're going to say in the winter, no, you're not going to get any water coming in. But to say that, a particular time of the year, generally, where the runoff is probably the largest is if you've got a lot of snowpack in the watershed, and you have the perfect condition again is frozen ground, warm temperatures, and a lot of snow, and you can get some nice runoff coming in at that point, and then it just depends on conditions of the intensity of the storm, antecedent conditions, a whole bunch of stuff that comes into play.
Okay, so what you're saying is there can be a difference in maybe the precipitation that comes in the wintertime, total there, and the summertime, the way the rainfall comes in?
Oh, yes, a lot of it comes into intensity of storm. But yeah, you can't look. There's a lot of conditions. You have to analyze each one and then look at the runoff.
So, and then when you're talking about the average, having average precipitation, this normal precipitation now for the last few years, did you look at that as being, was it all normal events, or were there spikes? Were there excess snow or less snow or rainfall?
I didn't look at individual events. I looked at sort of the big picture, if you will, and just looked at over the period and said, on average, on an annual basis, I didn't try to go out and pick a particular event. I mean, that gets to be a lot of work. I mean, it even gets to be difficult to take a particular storm event and then try to determine what would be the runoff from that particular event. Again, because it depends on previous conditions. What's the soil moisture? What's the intensity of the rainfall? What's the duration of the rainfall? And I didn't go there because you're looking at a particular event, and it's hard. I wanted to look at the bigger picture on an annual event.
Okay. By just using the normal rate, just what you did was just use normal, or the precipitation that was measured, not in any correlation to any extra events at all, to determine that when you're saying that we've had normal rainfall.
Yes, normal being an annual value, not I didn't look at daily, weekly, or monthly, or seasonally. I looked at it on an annual basis only.
Then on Exhibit 4, you indicated that there's spikes in Lake Poncet when they rise, and you sort of implied that it was associated with the Big Sioux River, with spikes there also?
Yes.
Okay. Now, would you look at that chart? How do those spikes compare to Lake Albert at the same time?
They are similar.
What effect would the Big Sioux River have on Lake Albert?
If you will go back to this exhibit number 6, and you remember I pointed out that Albert actually has its outlet elevation is actually lower than Poncet elevation. So what you can do is actually get water filling. I mean, it can fill. I mean, you can get Dry Lake, Poncet, Albert, John, and I believe, we'll stop at John. Those are all, because they're lower, you can in fact affect those, all of those. Because what you're going to do is you're going to slow the flow down. If you raise this, you got your hydraulic head. If you've got Elbert coming in like this and you raise Ponset up like this, the water's going to tend to like back up just a little bit in Elbert, where if it was down here, then you would have a little more flow. Again, it's this hydraulic head between the lakes. So what happens in Ponset will potentially affect Elbert, St. John, and Dry.
But is that correlated to the Sioux River at the time too?
If you're looking at an event where you get one of these big spikes, you get a lot of water coming into Ponset. I mean, we're up here. Let's just take this one right here, and Ponset Ponset goes up here to 1656, 1656 and a half, someplace in there. Basically, what you've done is you're probably going to actually push water back into Elbert, or you're going to prevent water from Elbert actually draining back into Ponset, because there's no place for it to go. It's going to basically hit a water level that's at the same level. So now, whether the water physically moves back or you prevent any water from Elbert actually draining out, I don't know. But I would say they are hydrologically connected in some fashion.
So, do you have any experience or any data to ever show that water has ever went from Lake Ponset to Lake Elbert?
No, I do not.
And if you look at the graphs, would it ever indicate that Lake Ponset is above Lake Albert?
No. What I'm saying is that you can prevent, well, I can't, no, I don't know. But what I'm saying is when you get one of these extreme events, you can basically, because you don't really see anything precip-wise, what you can do is literally block water from moving out of Elbert. You can block water from moving out of St. John because there's no place for it to go. So it'll literally just, and I don't know, I did not study Elbert. So whether it physically moves upstream or whether you simply become a barrier to downstream movement, I don't know.
And then the last question would be on Exhibit 7, if you'll pull that back up. It's the drawing of the shoreline stabilization.
Oh, okay, it's underneath.
No, it's in the back wall.
Back wall, okay. Take this down.
No.
Oh, here we go, thank you. I'm getting tired. Okay, shoreline stabilization.
Okay, and you have attributed this to me, is that correct?
I took it out of your report. So I'm assuming that this was a design that was utilized or you had something to do with.
Okay. Would you be surprised if I was the one who drew that?
Good design.
The question that you brought up several times was the fact that below the ordinary high water mark, that if the water was left at that level, that you would expect erosion to happen at that level. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you aware of what a stable lake bottom is? What type of slope there is on a stable beach?
It's fairly flat. I mean, I don't know the actual slope, but no.
Would you be surprised a 9 or a 10 to 1 slope is stable? Would you agree with that?
Okay, if you say so, yes, I'll agree with that.
Okay. Would you also agree that maybe if water below the ordinary high water line, the shoreline below the ordinary high water or the bottom of the floor is subjected to that water for a long time, that's probably where it's going to be. It's going to be stable at 10 to 1.
I can't answer that. If that's true, I can't answer that.
Would it surprise you on shorelines above the ordinary high water mark, which are a 10 to 1 slope that we do know there's nothing to do for stabilization because they are stable?
Again, I'm just going off of your. All I did was I took out of the phase 1 diagnostic that there was approximately 10,000 feet of shoreline that was, let's just say, of a concern. They have different categories, I believe, but of a concern for erosion. And